dear brothers and sisters. It's a joy to be here at the Veggie Fest, and it's so nice to see so many of you here in this 91-degree temperatures. You know, we live in an age where stress seems to be a part of our life. As we look at our lives, we all feel that something is not working as it should. And whether it be at our places of work, whether it be at our homes, whether it be when we meet our friends or in communities or in societies, we feel things are happening which are difficult for us to deal with. And as we start to look into why we have what we call stress, we find that we all today are very, very educated. We've got a lot of schooling, we learn a lot, and so we're very knowledgeable. And with knowledge comes a lifestyle in which we find that people from all parts of the world are living in many, many different countries together. So we have people of various cultures who we deal with, who we live with, who we find at work. And because of our backgrounds being different, things don't happen as the way we would like them to happen. Because we grow up in an environment, we grow up in a family, we have certain ways of talking, certain ways of doing things, and all of a sudden we run into people whose ways of viewing things might be entirely different. And when things happen which are contrary to what we expect, then we feel devastated. As a human being, because we're also educated, we think we're always right and that we know it all. And so we find that we are not only in stress at the physical level, but because of our communications with others, because of the interactions that happen today, because of us today sitting in any part of the world and being so knowledgeable about every other part of the world, that the information which is coming to us is like so much, it's very difficult for us to decipher it. Living in this age where there's been technological advances, we know about computers multitasking. And so as human beings, when we're multitasking, it becomes very difficult for us to deal with it. In a computer, it can go in and it, because of the nature of its design, it can pick a lot of information very quickly and put it together, whereas we as human beings have some limitations. And because of all these interactions happening, we find that life is full of stress, where we have difficulty dealing with things. And all of a sudden, not only are we thinking about the difficulties, we find that the effects come to the physical body. Today, the doctors and the scientists are telling us that many of the diseases, like heart diseases and even digestion diseases and breathing diseases, are happening because of stress in our life. And as we start to look at the situation, we try to find solutions. Most of us feel that when we are in a state of stress, when we're going through a difficult period, that what helps is to be entertained. And so whether we watch TV, go to a movie, or go to a sports program, or go to a music program, we always feel our stress is being relieved and we need to relax. And then when that program is over, our stress really has not gone away, it has stayed with us. So how does one de-stress one's life? You know, as we grow up in this world, all the knowledge that we gain is from the world outside. You know, we go to school, we learn from our teachers, we learn our languages, we learn our sciences and our maths and our economics and every other subject that we take. And the learning process is such that we take inputs from either our teachers or from the books or from whatever media we are learning from. And then we try to interact with that arena to gain more of the knowledge. And so we, as we grow up, are always in a mode where we're learning from the world outside. So to be in a state, to deal with stress, we feel that if we would be focused on some things or go to some place or we take a vacation, then we would be de-stressed. The saints and mystics of the years have been telling us that everything on the world outside is temporary, and since it's temporary, it has a time span. And so when we relate to it, we're not gonna get permanent happiness or permanent solutions or permanent peace and calm to deal with the stressful situation we find ourselves in. Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj has said very beautifully, he says, Sab kich ghar mein, bahar nahi, bahar tole so bharam bhulai. He's saying, everything that you want to get is within yourself. And the more time you spend on the world outside to get whatever you want, the more world of illusion you're going to find yourself. And therein lies the changes that have come into our society over the years. So I'd like to relate a story about a bunch of oak trees. There were these oak trees who lived for many centuries. And there's a bunch of them, and then once in a century they get together and talk about what changes have they seen in the last century, because a lot of people, came and sat under the trees for the shade, and they had many picnics and everything over the years. So once in a century, they would sit down and talk about the changes. So last time, when they got together, they started talking about what changes have they felt in the last 100 years. And so one tree said, I find that people in this century, because of all the innovations that have happened, are very much into keeping their body fit and fine. So the other tree asks, what do you mean by that? It said, look at it. You got so many places where you can go and physically exercise. There's been boom in all these areas where physically help can be found by people. You have all these personal trainers who can train so that you're physically well. And so I feel that there's a big change. Everyone wants to be looking good, feeling good, keep the body well, and exercising. So the other tree said, I found another change too. I saw that they were exercising, but I also find that, there are many changes now, like a day like today, when the sun is out, people come up with what is called sunscreen. So you put the sunscreen on, so the rays of the sun, the UV from there is not going to be affecting you that much. And I see that a lot more in this century. I never saw it in the last century. And so I see all these kids and all these families come and they have a big picnic here. Everyone putting sunscreen, and whether it's 50 or 70 or whatever the numbers are, they're trying to use them so that the skin is better. And so a third oak tree is there. He says, I noticed something else too. As people were exercising, they realized, hey, exercise is not only the key, the food is very important. So he says, now I feel a lot of people saying, don't eat processed food. It's very bad for you. Don't eat things which have chemicals in them. And so you need to go to organic food. You need to eat more vegan and plant-based diet foods. He says, I see many, many people gravitating there. And then one said, I know they're all focused on their bodies and they're providing them with good food and they're, making sure that the body's fine and they're making sure they're exercising well. But when they come and they sit under my shade, I feel that they're talking about stress, they're talking about fear, they're talking about anxiety, they're talking about depression, and I don't know, they have so many good things happening to them. Why are in that state? So the another one said, they found out if they want to be happy, if they want to deal with stress, they need to be calm. They need to be quiet. They found out that the brain waves generally work between 12 and 20 hertz per second. And that's what happens to general human beings as we're doing our day-to-day activities. And so the tree said, as they checked more into how they could be calm, they realized that if they can take the brain waves to like 4 to 8 hertz, then the calmness will come in, the stress would be relieved, they'll feel happy, they'll feel joyous. So the next tree says, so once they found out, how do they do that? They said the answer is meditation. You stay calm, you stay still, and you realize that for you to be able to deal with the stress, everything that you need is within yourself. God has provided us with all the means that are needed by us to deal with everything that comes in this world. When God created this creation and sent all of us here, God made sure that we also will have all the means that are needed by us to know ourselves. So to meditate, you don't need any external devices. You don't need to go to a special place. You don't need to be doing any special postures. What is needed is to be able to use the faculties that have been provided to us. The human race is called the roof and crown of all creation. We as human beings have been given that characteristic where we can find out the difference between truth and untruth, in which we can use our faculties to unravel the truth. And as Sant Rajinder Singh Maharaj would say, he says, any thought, any word, any deed that we have which takes us closer to the Creator, closer to God, is good. Anything that deviates us from experiencing God or being close to God is bad. And so as we look at our life today, and as we look at the stresses and strains that we all go through on a daily basis, it is important that we realize that calmness and peacefulness and happiness and joy comes into our life when we find the presence of God in our own lives. When we go to a places of worship, we might be in all kinds of trouble, but we feel very peaceful. Why? Because we feel that the presence of God is in our place of worship. And we could be following any faith, we could be following any tradition, but when we go to a place of worship, whether it's a church or a temple or a synagogue or a gurdwara or any other place of worship, we feel very content because inside of us we feel that God is present there, and then when God is there, then we are protected. There's nothing that can go wrong. And so the saints and mystics are telling us that God is with each and every one of us. Our real self is not the physical body that we think it is. Our real self is not a mind, which most people relate to. Our real self is not our brains that many people think. In reality, what gives us life is our soul. Our soul which is conscious, our soul which is full of the love and light of God, our soul which, while it is in the human body, makes this body works. And so many of us, as we grow, we see our parents and our grandparents physically pass away. But when we look at the body, nothing changes in the body. The length is the same, the width is the same, the features are the same. It's not like one arm is pulled away or one leg is pulled away. So what has happened to the body that we say this person is physically dead? The power behind the body is gone. And that power which makes the body work is what is called the soul or the spirit. And that is what our real self is. Just like we experience a body, through our 5 outer senses, a sense of sight, a sense of hearing, a sense of smell, a sense of taste, and a sense of touch. We're interacting with the world outside. So just like we can experience, this body when we touch ourselves, when we talk to others, we can hear them, when we see them. Just like that, we can experience things at the level of a physical body, we can experience ourselves at the level of our soul. To each and every human being, God has given a gateway to the spiritual regions, and that gateway is here, between and behind the two eyebrows. It's called the single eye, it's called the third eye, it's called the Divya Chakshu, it's called the Nukta Safeda. Different names have been given to this gateway, this opening, which opens into the worlds within. Beyond the physical world are the spiritual worlds. And they're occurring concurrently with this physical region of ours. Those are regions of calm, those are regions of peace, those are regions of tranquility, those are regions of love. And saints and mystics have talked about going on the spiritual journey. Mirabai has said very beautifully. She said, Mira manmani surat sal asmani. She said that my mind, which was always focused on the world outside, which always thought that I was just to live on the world outside. She said, when I went on the spiritual journey, on the journey within, then only I realized the realities of our existence. And so meditation is a means by which we can take this spiritual journey. Meditation is a means by which we take our attention away from the world outside and focus it within ourselves. And meditation is a way by which we can experience the peace, the joy, the harmony, and the love, which is within each and every one of us. And as we experience those states of calmness, we find that we can deal with any stressful situation that we find ourselves in a much better manner. It's just like, let's say it's very hot outside today. If you live in an area and you've got air conditioned inside, it could be 91 degrees, could be 110 degrees, it doesn't bother you that much. Because you have found a state in which you're calm and you're cool. It's the same thing with us. All the stress that we find on the world outside dissipates when our attention goes into the source of all calm and peace within ourselves. And as we get to that state of experiencing that, conscious living is a means by which our stress can be removed or we can be de-stressed. So what is conscious living? Conscious living means that we are conscious of how we are leading our lives. That we are not leading a life and we say, this is mine, I take it, we're just living for ourselves. That we realize that we're all a part of one big family of the Creator. And that we all can live in harmony with each other. Now, how do we get to that state? As we meditate, as we go within, we connect with what are called the two manifestations of the divine, that being the divine light and the divine sound of God. When we go to our places of worship, we find signs of light. You might be lighting candles. In the East, we might be lighting diyas, which are like all wicks that we light up. It's a sign to talk about eternal light, the light within, the light that brings joy to the world, which is the Creator. We find signs of sound, like we might have bells ringing, we might have what we call nagaras, which are ringing, we might have drums that beat. So light and sound are found in practically all places of worship. They are not to show us the outer sense, they are to relate to the inner part of our being. Each and every one of our faiths has two sides to it. The outer side deals with the rites and rituals. How do we go to a place of worship? Should we have our head covered? Should we have our shoes on? Should we have a suit on? And what are we going to do there? Are we going to light a candle? Are we going to ring a bell? Are we going to listen to a sermon? So these are the rites and rituals which are different in each one of our faiths. But each one of our faiths has the inner side, which is called the esoteric side of our faith. And that side deals with our spirit, our soul, the flight of the soul, the union of the soul with God, and that part of our faith is what is common. When you look at the lives of the saints and mystics, after whose lives, great tradition, the great phase of the world started, we find that each and every one of them talked about communion with God. They all talked about having a revelation of the divine, whether they were sitting in a cave, whether they were on a mountain, whether they were just by themselves, they all talk about this revelation. And so at this day and age, as we think about the lives of the great saints and mystics, we wonder if they and their disciples could experience God, why can't we experience God today? God the Creator is as available today as God was when creation started, as God will be when creation one of these days comes to an end. It's all God's will. No one knows what's going to happen. As we close our eyes and as we start to still the mind, because it's the mind that we need to deal with, the mind that is taking our attention, putting into the world. It's the mind which brings stress into our life. It's the mind which focuses into the world. And so we need to still it. And the techniques are very similar. As we close our eyes to meditate, as we find a quiet place to meditate, the difficulty that we all have is as soon as we close our eyes and we think we want to experience the divine, we get thoughts. Thoughts are coming from our mind. The mind doesn't want us to know God. The mind wants us just involved in the world outside. The mind wants us to pass this life focusing on the world outside so that we are in this cycle of lives and deaths, that we are transmigrating. The mind doesn't want us to connect with God because it's just a lover of enjoyment. And so it gives us thought. As soon as we sit down to meditate, thought comes in, no, what am I supposed to do tomorrow? A thought comes in, I met my family member and this is what we talked about. A thought comes of the past, a thought comes of the future, could be about anything, and all of a sudden we're distracted. We can't focus on the experience. So the techniques that are used in most traditions are one and the same. That as we close our eyes, the mind is the one which is giving thoughts to us. So let us put the mind towards God. Why do we put it towards God? Because God is the source of all happiness and joy and peace. The more God is in our life, the better life is going to be. The more our attention is on the Creator, the more calmness and peacefulness we're going to find. And so some people repeat one name of God, some people repeat 5 names of God. Today, in this day and age, we can use a word which is calming or peaceful because there are many people who don't believe in God. This is with the age of a lot of intelligence being getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so as the intelligence is bigger, we question everything. And so when we question everything and we don't get the answer, then we get devastated. Sometimes I think we have to get to a realization that we realize that not understanding is the real understanding, that we're not going to understand everything. We all think we need to understand everything, but we need to get to an understanding, hey, we can't understand everything because there's so much more there that we don't know about. But since we are so educated, we say, no, I need to understand everything, and it needs to be logical, this. Why is it not working the way I think? The key is that as we start to connect with the divine power within, the mind needs to be stilled. And so as we close our eyes, whether we use the name of God, whether we use a word which is calming to us, whether peaceful to us, it takes the energy of our mind, which is sending thoughts to us, and puts it toward a calming or a peaceful or a godly environment. And when that happens, then in the stress which might be around us, we get into the haven which is within each and every one of us. We start to experience light. In the beginning, it seems like there are flashes of light, there are circles of light. It might look like the light is coming and going, and then with time, the light stabilizes. So what actually is happening, the light is not coming from the outside. The light of God is within each and every one of us. When we concentrate, we experience the light. When we're distracted, we experience darkness. And so with time, as we start to experience more and more of a concentration being within ourselves, to us it looks like the lights are stabilized. And then go beyond the lights, and there are many, many other vistas that open up for us. The beauty is, as we have that experience of being with the light, we find calmness and stillness come over us. And so, when we are out of that meditative state, that calmness and stillness stays with us. It's not that it's only there for that time that we are meditating, it's for many more hours beyond. And then we find that a transformation happens from within. All of a sudden we find that our relationships with others are more calmer. So I want to leave you with a very simple meditation. To us, meditation is a spiritual practice. So the body could be in any pose. It's not necessary to be in a certain yogi pose or some other pose. So we can sit as comfortably as you can. We close our eyes so that nothing from the world outside distracts us. So we close our eyes. We generally try to find a quiet place to meditate. So any place in the home, place of work, or wherever you go to park, is a quiet place, is good. Because if there's noise, then our attention goes in the world outside. We're definitely not going to eat, so a sense of taste is withdrawn. We don't change the atmosphere. Many people feel like to meditate or to know God, you need to make the atmosphere quote-unquote spiritual. So they light incenses and other things. We just feel that if we change the atmosphere, our attention through our sense of smell will go into that arena. So we feel, all day long we don't think about where we are. So we just keep on leading our lives accordingly. We don't even think about how we are breathing. So when we meditate, we don't focus on the breathing too. We let it go normally. Because we feel, every day, whatever we're doing, our breaths are coming automatically. God has put the system into the human body. It's one of the most intricate systems they can think about. But it keeps on working. The heart keeps on ticking, the blood keeps on running. So don't touch anything. Let them work normally. And so as we close our eyes, our eyeballs should be straight. See, many people feel the seat of the soul is here, between them, behind the eyeballs, they try to raise their eyeballs. Please don't do that. Because if you raise your eyeballs, you're going to put pressure on your forehead, which is generally culminate in a headache. The reason we keep them straight is, we don't want any pressure on our forehead, we should be relaxed. So this is a practice of concentration in a relaxed state. Now, as we close our eyes, all of a sudden all kinds of thoughts come in. So we use a mental repetition. We don't repeat God's name or a word of peace or calm out loud, because if we repeat it out loud, our ears would hear it, we would be distracted. So we do a mental repetition of this, any name of God you're comfortable with. And if you're not comfortable with any name of God, you can use a name that's peaceful to you, that's loving to you, that's calming to you. You can repeat that too. Now, as you do that, right in front of you, with time, light will sprout forth. So it'll look like flashes of light, circles of light. The lights could be of various colors. It could be golden, it could be white, it could be red, blue, green, yellow, orange, or any other color. Now, just keep your gaze right in the middle. And with time, as your concentration will improve, you'll find the lights have stabilized. And then with time, you go beyond the lights. You get experience like sky, stars, moon, sun, many, many other vistas open up. Now just keep your gaze there, and you'll find the calmness and the stillness come over you. And so our job is to find a place, sit down calmly. Thousands of us can sit down and meditate together. Just make sure no part of our body touches someone. Because if they move, then we would be distracted. So we all have a one-to-one experience with God. And we just want that connection to be no distraction to come in. So let us meditate. Close your eyes very gently. Make sure your eyeballs are straight. If you like to repeat any name of God, that's fine. If you like to repeat a name which is calming, peaceful, loving to you, that's fine too. Do a mental repetition. I pray to God Almighty and to the three great spiritual masters of the past century, Hazur Baba Sawan Singh Ji Maharaj, Param Sant Kripal Singh Ji Maharaj, and Dayal Prasanna Darshan Singh Ji Maharaj, to help each and every one of us connect with the divine power within and to experience the divine light and its effulgence. We'll be sitting for a few minutes. I'll be getting out at that time, and my best wishes are with each and every one of you. Please leave off. Please leave off.